Happy Tuesday, Razorback fans. You are 4 days away from Arkansas versus Texas A&M at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Jerry's World. That's where the teams are going to be playing. This should end up being a pretty good game. I thought after the A&M Appalachian State game that maybe A&M goes and loses to Miami, and then you're looking at Arkansas playing a 1-2 Texas A&M team, and you know that the game's always going to be, competitive, but it wouldn't have, been as fun if it was an unranked Texas A&M team who already has 2 losses. But luckily they beat Miami. They're still ranked. It's a ranked matchup. SEC Nation's going to be there. You know the crowds are going to show up. They love traveling down there, getting into that stadium. Everybody wants to see it. It should be fun, Robert. I got Robert Stewart with me. It's the Gridiron Hogs podcast, daily podcast covering the Arkansas football team, part of the HawgBeat podcast network, HawgBeat.com. Go visit it. All that great coverage on Arkansas athletics. If you just go to the homepage right now, you got stories like an offer story from our guy, Alex Trader, who's on the pod Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. He talks about a new offensive tackle who sees Arkansas offer as a next level achievement. We got a bunch of press conferences, practice video, what Jimbo Fisher had to say about Arkansas's depth chart. Let's see, game time for Alabama, all that stuff. Dan Skipper made his first NFL start. A lot of good stuff over at HawgBeat.com. Okay, Robert. I'm sorry. I always start the podcast by talking so much. Maybe I should let you talk a little bit.
Yeah, I want to circle back to what you said about App State and how that game may have caused this one this week to I don't know, not mean a little less, but it puts a damper on things a little bit. But I think that's sort of gone now that Arkansas played, a close battle with Missouri State. Maybe the Bears brought the Hogs back to earth a little bit. So even though Arkansas escaped with the victory, you think that both teams going into this week have had their battles with some early season adversity. As far as teams that they probably should have beaten handily go. Um, and then, of course, on the injury front for Arkansas, we need to get into that a little bit, particularly with Myles Slusher. Do we think he's going to get back into the mix this week?
Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about. That's our main thumbnail thing that we're talking about today. Myles Slusher was back at practice on Monday. We'll get into that, what we think about the Arkansas secondary. I posted a stat yesterday that a lot of people were not happy about. And all I have to say is I don't make the stats. I just report them. So, and I'm also not the one on the field causing the stat. So, let's hit news, though. Some news. So yesterday they announced the kickoff time and TV channel for Arkansas versus Alabama, which is next weekend, October 1st. It's going to be the 2:30 p.m. Central Time game on CBS. Now, we talked about this before we started recording, Robert. We didn't realize how many people would be upset about that. And the reason that we think that it's okay is, I guess, because for years now that has been the game of the week for the SEC. If you get that CBS game, you're big time. And now, I understand it. People want it to be a night game because more fans can get there. It's a little bit of a better atmosphere. You don't have the sun beating down on you. All those factors play into it. You think back to the Texas game last year. That was a night game. Incredible atmosphere. But bottom line, Arkansas versus Alabama. If Arkansas takes care of business this week, you're looking at a top 10 matchup in Fayetteville. Arkansas, Alabama. If the fans don't show up for that at 2:30, then when are they going to show up for a game,
Yeah, exactly. This is the SEC's premier game. I remember just last year. Um, you look at the Arkansas Texas A&M game. Everybody was thrilled when that one was announced as the 2:30 game on CBS. Even Arkansas Alabama, again, it was 2:30 last year. People were over the moon about it. I know that one was in Tuscaloosa. Probably not as many fans went to that one. But like you said, if you can't get up and go to Arkansas Alabama, I don't care what time of day it is. It could be 11 a.m. Then it's Saturday. Come on, it's the weekend. Show up.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, if it was an 11 a.m. kickoff, that's when I get it. That's when I'm like, okay, you can say something about that. But I mean, it's 2:30. You don't have to get up at 11. Like I feel for the Georgia fans last year when it was college game day and it was an 11 a.m. kickoff, Arkansas, Georgia. Now we know that they showed up and that crowd was incredible. You were there, Robert. But I think that 2:30 is fine. I think that having the CBS game, I don't I as long as the SEC is still having the deal with CBS, which I believe we figured out yesterday that it's out in 2024. As long as that deal's still going, this is still your game of the week. Is the 2:30 p.m. CBS slot, Central Time, of course. And that's what Arkansas is getting against Alabama, and they might have another one of those throughout the season. So, I mean, fans showed up for the Cincinnati game. They'll show up for this one, and if Arkansas beats Texas A&M, it's gonna the atmosphere might be better than Texas last year. I think that that's a real possibility. There's a real possibility that if Arkansas beats Texas A&M, College Game Day will be in Fayetteville next week. So a lot of things going into that. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for that atmosphere. I'm excited to see it. And so we'll see if they can beat A&M because it'll be a lot. It'll still be a great atmosphere if they don't, but if they do, it's going to be incredible. Um, so let's hit what happened at practice on Monday, Robert. So big thing, we had Myles Slusher back at practice. He was in a green jersey. Of course, that's always just a precautionary thing. They were practicing in the indoor facility. Makes sense. They're playing inside of AT&T Stadium, which is an indoor stadium. Isaiah Satania was not seen at practice. He was also not dressed out for Saturday's game. Um, it's to note, but he probably wouldn't have played against Texas A&M, but that's just one thing that we noticed. There were some big AC units blowing into the facility. They also were playing crowd noise over the speakers. Two things that Sam Pittman told us after the press conference yesterday. He said, bring your jackets and bring your earplugs. And so we didn't really need the jackets, but as we were leaving, we needed the earplugs. It was really loud. I do not envy those players having to sit there and listen to how loud that crowd noise was. Um, two other things that I noticed. Former Razorback Davion Warren, he's part of the quality control slash analyst staff. He used to be a receiver for the Hogs. I mean, most people who listen to this podcast should remember him. He was helping Quincy McAdoo, freshman wide receiver, in individual drills. I knew that Warren was on the quality control staff. I didn't know, or I hadn't seen him at practice to this point. So it was cool to see him coaching up some of the younger receivers, a guy with a lot of experience, especially at Arkansas. And then also there was a Kansas City Chiefs scout in attendance. So just for my own personal benefit, I hope that he was watching guys like Drew Sanders, guys like Rocket Sanders, Jaden Hazelwood, Trey Knox, like, you know, Ricky Stromberg. Like, I hope that he saw those guys. If people don't know, I'm a Chiefs fan, so it would be nice for the Chiefs to finally get a Razorback on the team. I think the last Razorback they had,
Wasn't
maybe
Niall Davis, was it?
I was about to say, I think it might have been Nile Davis. I can't remember if Nile left before because Peyton Hill has had like a 1 year stint with them. It's been a
I
while.
wouldn't count that.
I feel like I'm missing somebody though. Anyways, let's not waste time on that. Let's talk about Myles Slusher. Basically Sam Pittman. I want to pull up his actual quote on that. Because I want to make sure that I say what he said. Where was it? Where was
You talking about the five best players?
No, it's not the five best players where he was just asked about Slusher's health in general. Oh, here we go. Um, you get a better player on and you get a worse player off. He can play nickel, he can play field safety, he can play corner, he can play boundary safety. He thinks it's big to get him back. But I feel like he wasn't committing to the fact that Slusher is for sure going to play this Saturday. Once again, did you kind of get that vibe?
I did, and I don't know. I struggle with how concerned to be about it, right? Because I mean, as soon as the South Carolina game was over, I can't remember if it was the Saturday post game or the Monday preview of that week, but I mean, it sounded like Slusher was going to play last week, and then he didn't practice at all. So he's just now back, and um, it, it's just a very different tune than was being sung this time last week. So um, you'd like to see him progress a little bit in practice. We'll be there again this afternoon, and it will be interesting to see if he is out of green. But it I don't know. I mean, Jimbo Fisher touched on this and said that Arkansas's secondary can make plays all over the field, which I I don't know if he watched any of the highlights of the Missouri State game, but they were not making plays all over the field, and so maybe he's talking about a secondary with Myles Slusher in it. I don't know.
I mean, we've seen glimpses at times, and I think back to, of course, the two Dwight McGlothern interceptions, the fumble against South Carolina. I think Breeny's the one who caused it. Clark recovered it. There was a play against Missouri State where Hudson Clark could have had an interception. So, here and there's some plays. I found the quote I was looking for though. He said, they're going to experiment this week. They want to get their 5 best players on the field, make sure they have the right people in the right spots. Of course, injuries play a factor into what they can do, but he said, I think Slusher, he's going to practice today, which he did. And he said he'll be back, and that should help us as well. And then he also said he thinks Malik Chavis, I keep saying Chavis, is Chavis, is a guy we need on the field. And when he's not playing corner, we need him at safety. Um, and he said, and I'm not sure if we don't need him at safety and just put Hud at corner. So there's a lot of experimenting that they're going to do this week. I think kind of what we got from that is they want to put their 5 best DBs on the field at the same time, regardless of where they're playing. Because as we've talked about, and as Pittman has talked about, as the team has talked about, they've kind of cross trained these guys where they can all play really anywhere in the secondary. And so I'm curious, Robert. Let's talk about who are the 5 best DBs for Arkansas, because you don't have Jalen Cattle on. Let's go ahead and put out Ladarius Bishop as well, because we don't know how long he's going to be hurt. Who do you think are the 5 best defensive backs for Arkansas?
So going down the list here, Slusher's up there. This is no particular order, by the way. You got Myles Slusher. We'll throw Dwight McGlothern in there, and we haven't brought this up yet, but I believe Sam Pittman said that he's dealing with a hamstring injury right now. He was practicing yesterday, so I mean, it doesn't seem like a big issue, but maybe something of note. Latavius Breeny's up there, so that's what Slusher, McGlothern, Breeny. Um, I think you got to throw Hudson Clark in there, and probably Malik Chavis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Go back
That's
down through that again. You were kind of
okay. Uh, Myles Slusher, Dwight McGlothern, Latavius Breeny, Hudson Clark, Malik Chavis.
that's your
So
top 5.
that leaves off Simeon Blair, who, by the way, I don't see not playing. Um, and Kari Johnson, I think we talked about as being in the mix there.
Yeah, Kari Johnson should be in the mix as well. I mean that once you get past, I think the top 3 are Slusher, Breeny, McGlothern. I think that's your top 3. Once you get past that, it's kind of iffy, which is kind of weird because going into the season, it really felt like Jalen Catalon and then Hudson Clark and McGlothern, from what we were hearing in fall camp, and now it's like, what is Hudson Clark in the top 5? Because last weekend against Missouri State, Malik Chavis started at the second corner spot alongside Dwight McGlothern, and then they were rotating him and Clark out at the same time. And I asked Sam Pittman about that. I want to find his quote. He said what they can do is, do they feel good enough about moving Chavis to safety? Because with Slusher coming back, they have opportunities with some movement. He thinks that's gonna happen a little bit this week. Chavis can be on the field at safety, or Hudson Clark on the field at safety. So it would be kind of weird to see Hudson Clark at safety. But I think another media member said he played a little bit of nickel this past week. But I think your top 5 is this. I think it's Slusher, McGlothern, Breeny. Sam Pittman seems to feel like Chavis is in that top 5. And And that fifth guy is really tough for me because I look at it this way. First of all, I think Blair's going to be on the field. He's your captain. They love Simeon Blair. I think Blair's going to be on the field. So we'll make Blair like four. We got 4A and 4B of Chavis and Blair. Only because he has to be on the field. And then it's got to be between Clark and Kari Johnson. And the way I look at it was Kari Johnson was the first player off the bench on Saturday. So I guess it's Kari Johnson. I can't believe that we're at that point where now it's Kari Johnson over Hudson Clark. And of course they're gonna rotate them, but Sam Pittman said he wants the 5 best guys on the field at a time, and now we're talking about it. I just listed 6, which is weird. But the thing is Blair's not gonna come off the field. So I feel like we have to throw him. We have to have him in our list, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you, you probably remember the quote from fall camp that you'd like to have a team full of Simeon Blairs. I don't know if he was talking about um, as far as athletic ability goes, but he's got the heart. We know that. He was a leading vote getter in the captain elections for the Hogs, and so it would make sense that he takes over for Jalen Catalon, both in that role and on the field when he goes down. But I don't know. He was responsible for several of the missed tackles the other night against Missouri State. So
Yeah. I'm looking at the Pro Football Focus defensive grades from Missouri State. I'm a little bit confused because they changed the numbers. But based on Pro Football Focus grades against Missouri State, Hudson Clark led the Arkansas defense um, with a 73.8 defensive grade. He had a 74.2 coverage grade, which was number 1 on the defense as well. And then you had Cam Ball, Zach Williams, Terry Hampton, Drew Sanders, and then Dwight McGlothern, 68.9 overall grade, 68.7 coverage. And then the next was Kari Johnson. So I'm kind of trying to give an idea of, based on, play against Missouri State, who would the top 5 guys be, which is not a great way to scale it. But Hudson Clark, Dwight McGlothern, Kari Johnson, Latavius Brini, and then Malik Chavis. Is that 4 or 5? I think that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So Clark, McGlothern, Brini, Chavis, and Kari Johnson. And the 2 lowest scorers on the team were Jaden Johnson with a 54.1 overall score, a 24.8 overall grade, and then up for tackling. And then Simeon Blair had a 45 overall defensive grade. Sheesh. That's pretty tough.
that's pretty tough.
So I guess that's a good top 5 right there. Clark, McGlothern, Brini, Johnson, and Chavis. I feel like, that wouldn't be horrible. But the thing is like they're probably gonna have Blair on the field though.
That's true. They probably are going to have Blair on the field, and you'd feel a whole lot better if you could stick Slusher in the rotation too.
Right. We're completely forgetting Slusher. Yeah. Okay. I do not envy this coaching staff. They got a lot of decisions to make. The good thing is they're facing a Texas A&M team that's not really good at throwing the ball. But you want to figure it out this week. That way, next week when you play Alabama and Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, you have it figured out a little bit.
I am fully expecting Bryce Young to throw for 500 yards, by the way.
I don't know about 500 because they still got to run the ball a little bit, but
I I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I, I don't envy the Razorback coaching staff leading up to that game because the, they've got a lot of questions to answer now. It's the Crimson Tide will expose whatever questions have not been answered yet.
yep, I agree. All right, Robert, we will we'll close it off here. We'll tell you about our friends at My Perfect Franchise, and then we'll let everybody get on their way. So, are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career in your own hands? Are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Well, Andy Luedecke can help. He's a longtime Rivals member and franchise veteran. He's owned multiple franchises and businesses, and he uses that expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. Call Andy to put your life and career in your own hands. It's 100% free. So, what do you have to lose? You can give him a call at 404-973-9901 or visit myperfectfranchise.net to start your new financial life by purchasing a franchise. It's a long, thorough process. They'll help you figure out the right thing for you. And it's great. It's great stuff. Andy's a great guy. I've talked to him myself, and he just wants to help other people get to the place where he's at, and he's in a very good place. So give him a call, 404-973-9901, or visit myperfectfranchise.net. All right, Robert Stewart, thank you. I've been Mason Choate. I still am Mason Choate. And we'll talk to everybody on the Gridiron Hogs podcast tomorrow.